Hey everyone, I'm Josh Galvin and this is Bob Gibbs, and this is episode 4 of The Truth in the News. And on today's episode, we're going to tackle 2 headlines from CNBC. And the first one is about Congress still squabbling over spending cuts. I'm sure you may have seen this one online, may or may not. Either way, we'll explain it and give it perspective on the actual real estate market and how does it even affect it. Meaning, right now the Congress, may be on, or the whole government may be on lockdown. So
Right.
how does that affect buying or selling? We want to address that and kind of just give some perspective and truth in the news on that whole thing. And the other one is on the housing rebound. There's always articles on the housing rebound or the housing collapse. There's always, they're almost bipolar journalists, it seems like, and writers on what's really going on in the market. So this article from CNBC stating, once again, it's wait until next year. That's what they're pretty much saying. So there's pretty much some wrong information that I've got from you so far. So let's just jump into the first one about Congress that we want to just address. So this one's about Congress still squabbling over spending cuts. So that's hard for people to digest. How does this affect real estate? Because it doesn't seem like there's a direct link, but there really is. So can you give us some light on all that?
Right. There's a very, very direct link to this and several different facets. One of the biggest makers of loans these days is the Federal Housing Authority, or FHA.
The FHA.
So if they shut down the government, which, what time is it now? It's 2:15 on Friday.
So we have about...
we have till midnight.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they're shutting down the government. If it's for a couple of days or a short amount of time, probably not that big of an impact. But if it starts becoming a protracted shutdown...
And what's that protracted shutdown mean? Like if it happens for a month or 2 months?
If it starts being a couple of weeks.
Okay, so even that long, that's not even that long.
Not long at all. Because if you're in a process of getting an FHA loan, for instance, and they shut down the government, the people that are actually reviewing those loans are unemployed.
Yeah.
Right, until the government is up and running and paying them again. So that's going to really slow down your ability to get an FHA loan. So the impact on the real estate market is it can serve to kind of throw us in a little bit of a down spin. Because
like a little mini, or like the bump things?
It can, because we have inventory on the market, and a lot of the buyers for that inventory are FHA buyers. So if they can't get a loan, then there's no one to buy those homes, and then the people who own the homes have to start lowering the price.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So it can take it down in the direction we don't want it to go.
And that's still though if there's this lockout.
If there's a lockout and they can't get it figured out as far as the budget goes. Yes.
Oh, okay. So what would you say? It's kind of hard to even guess what's going to happen, but let's say how would this affect them listening right now?
So if it's more of a wait and see. There's really not much that you or I or any of us can do unless we were elected officials in Congress to get this budget passed.
Yeah, so what should they be aware of then? Should they be
just keep your eye on it. If you're in the middle of getting an FHA loan approved right now, talk to your lender and see if there's anything they can do to expedite it. If you're in the process of getting ready to put an offer in on the home, make sure you stay in touch with your lender. Maybe there's some other products they can offer you. But I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it can slow things down. I mean, it can put a monkey wrench in the process of getting your home loan. The other thing that it may affect, and this is more of an indirect thing, is that if they shut the government down, that means there's probably about 1 million or so government workers that are going to be unemployed, at least for the period of time that the government shut down. So its impact on the economy can be very detrimental.
So it could ripple. There's like ripple effects from it. So not just a direct, because of FHA, there's ripple effects of jobs, and then now...
It's no secret that there's a lot of homes that are underwater right now.
Yeah.
Right, and people aren't able to make mortgage payments. So if you take 100 employed people and then put them out of work, some of them are homeowners.
Yeah.
So, first month they may be able to scrape together enough money to make their mortgage payment, but the second month maybe not.
Yeah,
and
that makes
the third
sense.
month maybe not. And at that point you start getting into that process where the bank has to start looking at foreclosing on homes, and that's not something.
What we talked about on episode 3.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, as far as advice, I mean, the only thing you can do is try to get yourself educated. And if you're in the process of buying a home right now, make sure you stay in touch with your lender and your real estate agent to have them stay on top of loan products that are out there.
Okay. So that hopefully that gives perspective on the whole what's going on
Right.
with the government shutdown and stuff.
Right.
Well, now the next one. This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
What you were saying before the camera recorded, we had some good conversation about this because this relates directly to the episode 3 of the Truth in News video where we talked about inventory and home prices, and pretty much what CNBC is saying in this article is that for housing rebound, once again, it's wait until next year. So they're pretty much saying no go for this year, wait until next year for a rebound. So what's the truth in all this?
Yeah, so really,
what's the reality?
This really points again to how localized the real estate markets are. This article in particular is basically saying that, you know, the inventory is high, there are no buyers, people are having difficulty getting loans, which is 180 degrees different from what we're seeing in our market in the East Bay of California, and actually most California markets in general.
Yeah, okay, so they're saying that there's high inventory.
Right.
And then right now in the East Bay, there's actually low inventory, which is what we talked about on episode 3, correct?
They're saying there's a high number of foreclosures on the market. We're seeing just the opposite.
Okay.
And number of foreclosures that are hitting the market have dropped the last 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
So that is in contrast to what the article says.
Oh, okay. So then if someone reads this, what is the lesson they need to take from it? Is this should they take this and say, okay, I'm going to actually wait now, or should they say, no, I'm going to buy now? Well, how should they ignore it? What should they do when they read this?
You know,
what kind of perspective do they need?
It's good fodder for conversation. But what I would definitely do is, because as I mentioned, real estate markets are highly localized. I mean, you can go 50 miles one way or another and have a completely different market.
Yeah.
So stay in touch with your real estate professional, and they can let you know what's going on in the market. Ask them for the statistics about your market. I mean, make them earn their money.
If I had to say it in a simple way, I would say don't look to national news as your real estate indicators. That just doesn't make any sense at all. It just makes zero sense, right? Because all this local.
That's
and we could talk about, we could even pinpoint some markets in California that I'm sure that are not booming, but having an upswing while other ones are stagnant, while other ones are going down, right?
That's exactly
it has nothing to do with the national numbers.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so then when you guys see these, what would you tell them? Should they get a lighter and just burn these because it's pretty much pointless?
Yeah, it's just something to kind of look at and say, oh, yeah, that's interesting, and then you have to talk to someone who actually knows the truth.
Okay, so from last week's episode where we talked about the inventory and NODs, you mentioned something interesting about the NODs. So an NOD is a notice of default.
Yeah, here's the irony of this, is that if you looked at the market today, and we mentioned this last week, that this market is very strong right now, and this is the East Bay of California I'm talking about. In terms of prices starting to go up, inventory moving very quickly and things. And like we mentioned last week, we said the reason for that is the inventory is low, but I showed a stack of notice of defaults. Well,
which are foreclosure filings.
Right,
basically.
starting for the foreclosure process. So just yesterday, I printed 183 notice of defaults. And those are just for San Ramon and Danville, and only in price points between $500,000 and $900,000. So that is a significant amount of homes. So that's like will be hitting eventually the market.
It's like a fuse. It's like lighting a firework with the long fuse. You don't know when it's going to pop.
Right.
It's just going to eventually, though.
It is. And so what the banks have done is they're working with agents and the homeowners to try to do short sales and things to keep people out of foreclosure, because the foreclosure process is very expensive, and actually the return from the bank's perspective, it's much less than doing a short sale. Yeah. So while this is not true today, and actually the magnitude of what they're reporting here, I don't think will ever be true. Yeah. But we will see inventory starting to rise, and what its impact's going to be on home prices is anyone's guess.
When you just go basic supply and demand economics, when you have more inventory with the same amount of buyers, that generally means
home prices should go down, or at least level off, because right now they're on their way up in some areas.
Yeah. So then when you look at with what I just got from you, and tell me if this is correct or not. Right. So if this article is saying, once again, it's wait until next year. So if we're talking to buyers, that may or may not be accurate, but for sellers who, let's say, are thinking of selling right now, obviously getting top dollar, that's always the ideal way. For sellers waiting until next year in the East Bay, with what you said, would I be smart as a seller to take this advice? No. Knowing what we know about the East Bay and all that.
I think from a seller's perspective, you should put your home on as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
And if you're a seller who's underwater, I would give us a call actually,
Yeah.
because you really should find out what your options are to avoid foreclosure.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you want to try to stay in house, and there's things I can talk to you about as well.
Okay.
So
So that's pretty much everything. Giving perspective, because remember, what you read on the major headlines, it's almost, not that it's intentionally misleading, it's just not accurate because it's a different economic viewpoint.
Right.
It's a different level of viewing at the
Right.
economy. So you have to look at more local for here, right?
Exactly.
It's a simple point.
Exactly.
Okay, so don't let this alarmist stuff scare you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much everything. Take
All
care.
right.